The 2019 NFL Draft is 4 years into their careers, and to put it mildly, there are some very good football players from this draft class, and in today's video, we are going to be grading picks 1 through 16 in reverse order. We will start with Brian Burns of the Panthers and finish with Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. The link for the video of grading picks 17 through 32 will be at the end of this video, and we all know why we're here, so without further ado, let's begin. Brian Burns was the 16th overall pick and has improved every year since entering the NFL in 2019. To date, he has 38 career sacks along with 7 forced fumbles and is now a 2-time Pro Bowler. He has been a very bright spot on what's been a bad team for the past few years, and with the Panthers trading up to number 1 overall, hopefully that will change for Brian and the team soon. He has 3 consecutive seasons with 50 or more pressures, including a career-high 68 pressures in 2022, which was a tie for 10th in the league, along with Josh Allen of the Jags and Hassan Reddick of the Eagles, who had 18 sacks in 2022. Burns will be a good player for a long time, and given he is already a multiple-time Pro Bowler, and more than likely going to have double-digit sacks a couple of more times in his career, I have no problem starting this video off with an A+ grade. The then Washington Redskins selected quarterback Dwayne Haskins, who is unfortunately no longer with us. Haskins was the 3rd quarterback selected of the night after Kyler Murray at number 1 and Daniel Jones at number 6. During his time with Washington, he threw 12 touchdowns to 14 interceptions and was released by the team less than 2 years after being drafted in the 1st round. He was with the Steelers at the time of his passing, and things did not go according to plan during his time in Washington, and this would be a disappointing draft grade. But at the end of the day, life is a lot bigger than football, and may Dwayne continue to rest in peace. Guard Chris Lindstrom is up, and I've said this before, but I truly believe Chris is one of the most underrated players in all of football. The Atlanta Falcons ran the ball well in 2022, and a lot of it was due to the play of Lindstrom. He earned his first Pro Bowl of his career in 2022 and has allowed just 2 sacks in his last 1,178 pass blocking snaps, or just 2 sacks over the past 2 years. He allowed an insanely low 9 pressures in 2022, and the Falcons didn't hesitate when it came to pay the big man in the trenches. He signed a 5-year deal worth $105 million a little over a month ago, and for anyone who is a fan of a smaller market team that thinks their players are underrated, trust me when I say this, Lindstrom is the epitome of this. He will be a multiple-time Pro Bowler and multiple-time All-Pro, and I have no problem giving this an A+ grade. Christian Wilkins was the guy who almost took out Roger Goodell on draft night, and he has been a solid player for the Dolphins over the past few years. Dolphins fans will be the first to tell you, and rightfully so by the way, that he was snubbed from the Pro Bowl this year. He had 98 tackles as a DT in 2022, including 16 TFLs, or tackles for loss. The sack numbers naturally aren't going to be there for Wilkins, and you can't judge his career solely based off of sack numbers, otherwise you'd think he was a disappointing player. His 5th-year option was picked up, and the salary cap will play into whether he gets an extension or not, but there's no doubt he has earned a contract extension. He's a good player, and this is a player that 4 years later, the Dolphins should be thrilled with what they got in Wilkins. He was every bit worthy of the 13th overall pick, and 4 years later, this is an A. Rashan Gary was the Packers' first-round selection of the night, and this is a difficult pick to grade for a few reasons. First things first, Rashan tore his ACL in the middle of the 2022 season, and he had 6 sacks in the first 9 games of the year, and probably would have made the Pro Bowl had he stayed healthy. This was after a year in 2021 in which things really started to come together for him, as he had 81 pressures and 9.5 sacks. I truly think Gary has A or A+ level talent, but we are largely basing this off of a year and a half of high-level play. He started just 4 of the 31 games he played in his first 2 years, and again, I think Gary is a very good football player, but it's tricky to grade. I am eager to see how he plays coming off of the ACL in 2023, and if he can get back to the player he was pre-injury. He could very easily be a multiple-time Pro Bowl player, and if he becomes that, the grade will increase, but for now it is a B+. Jonah Williams, the tackle from Alabama, is up, and Jonah underwent left shoulder surgery in June before his rookie season started and missed his entire rookie season. And in the 3 years he started, well, Bengals fans will tell you the results have not been good. And they didn't accidentally give Orlando Brown Jr. a big contract to come play left tackle for them this offseason. In 2022, Jonah allowed 43 pressures after allowing 42 pressures in 2021 and has given up 20 sacks over the past 2 seasons. He had 3 games in 2022 in which he allowed multiple sacks as they occurred against the Steelers, the forgetful Monday night game against the Browns, and the Patriots. There's been occasional good stretches where Jonah plays good at the left tackle position, but it's been overwhelmingly bad for the most part, as 20 sacks allowed in 2 seasons does not happen by accident, and 4 years later this is a hard D. There were back-to-back picks in the AFC North as the Steelers traded up to get linebacker Devin Bush. Devin is now a member of the Seattle Seahawks, and believe it or not, there was a time where Devin was viewed as an up-and-coming good linebacker. He finished 3rd in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting behind Nick Bosa and Max Crosby, but it has been downhill since. Devin tore his ACL in 2020, and he was never able to replicate the success he had in 2019. Pittsburgh is a city known for its grit and determination to get the end result, no matter what, even if you have to do the job no one wants to do, and a lot of Steelers fans felt there was little aggression from Bush when he was on the field, and also thought he had a poor attitude. 2019 Devin Bush was a lot different than any other year, and 4 years later this is a D+. Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle from Houston, is up, and this pick certainly isn't a home run by any means, but it's extremely frustrating for Bills fans when he was drafted ahead of Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence, and Jeffrey Simmons, and he is not anywhere near the caliber of player those other 3 are. From week 11 on in 2022, Ed had just 19 pressures in 9 games, that is of course including the postseason, and it's not like he was lighting it up in the run game either. Ed will make an occasional play or two that wows you, then seemingly disappear for the rest of the game. For reference, after winning the AFC Defensive Player of the Week against the Lions on Thanksgiving, he had just 12 tackles in the remaining 5 games of the Bills season. This isn't acceptable for a top 10 pick, and to me, Oliver is an average defensive tackle, a C grade. Drafting a tight end in the top 10 was bold at the time, and believe it or not, I don't think it's as bad of a selection as people make it out to be. TJ made the Pro Bowl in his second year with Detroit and was sent to Minnesota during the middle of the 2022 regular season. Was TJ worthy of a top 10 pick? No, but if a team drafted him towards the back half of the first round, I wouldn't bat an eye. And getting a second round pick back on a player you had no intentions of paying, while contributing a Pro Bowl appearance for your franchise, isn't bad. It wasn't TJ's fault the previous regime drafted him, and a regime that was absolutely terrible, and he wanted a change of scenery. As a Lion, we give this a C+, and factoring in the trade to get some return on a player before he left in free agency, we give this a B-. Josh Allen of the Jags is up, and he's been a solid player for them. Not every player selected in the first round is going to become the best at their position, and I think Josh is a perfect example of this. He's had 3 seasons with 7 sacks or more, with his career low of 2.5 sacks in 2020, in a year he played just 8 games. As mentioned during the Brian Burns draft grade, he did finish top 10 in pressures in 2022, which was far and away the highest finish in his career. The Jags picked up his 5th-year option, and I am hoping he signs a long-term deal so we can see the duo of both him and Trayvon Walker for the foreseeable future. Josh made the Pro Bowl as a rookie in 2019 and has not been back since. I wouldn't be surprised to see him make another Pro Bowl in his career, and if you draft a 2-time Pro Bowler and a player who will probably have 50 or 60 sacks for your franchise, I don't think an A- grade is unreasonable. Danny Dimes went number 6 overall to the Giants and received a $160 million contract extension this offseason. Hearing that would lead you to believe he has been a grand slam of a draft pick, but that's not necessarily the case. There were countless things going against Daniel in the first 3 years of his career, and we finally got to see a glimpse of what he could be in 2022. I don't think Daniel is an elite quarterback by any means, but I think he is a solid starting quarterback that still has not reached his potential. He turned the ball over at a much lower rate in 2022 than any other year in his career, and I am ecstatic to see what he does moving forward. This is without a doubt one of the most difficult picks to grade from this class, but 4 years later we give this a B- with room to grow assuming the Giants give him some weapons. Devin White, the speedy linebacker from LSU, is up, and a lot of Bucs fans have turned on him as he recently requested a trade. They don't want to pay him however many millions he wants per year, and I would assume it would be 18 to 20 as that's what Roquan Smith got, and understandably so. Bucs fans, that is. There's plays Devin makes that are downright insane, followed by gaps in games where he's just gone. I think the play that annoys Bucs fans the most was a first down run Lamar Jackson had where Devin stopped him after a gain of 5 yards and was celebrating like he had a huge game-changing tackle for loss that, again, went for a first down. But I want this to be clear. There are games Devin plays where he looks like a first-team All-Pro player, and 483 tackles and 20.5 sacks in 4 years does not happen by accident, and 4 years later this is a B+. Clelin Ferrell was a shock to everyone as he went number 4 overall to the Raiders. He was widely viewed as a mid to late first-round pick with a high floor but a limited ceiling. The Raiders played him a lot in the beginning of his career as he started all 26 games he played in over the first 2 years. But over time, the honeymoon wore off and Ferrell disappointed as a top 5 overall pick. He had a career-high 4.5 sacks in his rookie season, which was also the year he played the most snaps too. Not surprisingly, his 5th-year option was declined last offseason, and he was a free agent this offseason, where he signed with the 49ers. The Raiders spent a top 5 pick on a player that had just 10 sacks in 4 years and started just 30 games. I like to view the Max Crosby pick, which occurred later in this draft, as kind of their real top 5 pick, and Clelin as the 4th rounder, at least in terms of production, but the grade on the Ferrell pick is an F. Quinnen Williams had a breakout season in 2022, and Jets fans will tell you this has been a few years in the making. There was a lot of anticipation heading into Quinnen's rookie season, as he had the infamous mid-sneeze interview where he blessed himself.
Character things. Listen, thank you that I got.
And statistically didn't have a good rookie season, which is to be expected from an interior defensive lineman. I thought this was how Quinnen's career would go, as the tools have always been there, and it was about him putting it all together. And he did in 2022, as he had 12 sacks, finished top 10 in the Defensive Player of the Year voting, and was a first-team All-Pro. And I don't think this was a coincidence. He'll be 26 at the start of the 2023 season, and I truly think by the time he's done, he will be a 4 or 5-time Pro Bowl player. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this grade, but to me, that's what you're going for when you're picking in the top 3, and it's an A+ grade. Nick Bosa is up and has 34 sacks over the past 2 years and has been a dominant player since entering the league in 2019. He has 3 seasons with 75 or more pressures, including a career high in 2022 alone. He won the Defensive Player of the Year award this past year after an 18.5 sack season and earned his 3rd Pro Bowl nod in 4 years. The only time Bosa did not make the Pro Bowl or have 75 or more pressures in a season was when he tore his ACL early in the 2020 season. He is a disruptor and has truly been everything you hope for in a top 2 pick. I would like to think we all agree on this grade, and it's pretty simple. Bosa helped transform this defense, and without him, I don't think they would have went to the NFC Championship game in 3 of the last 4 years. An A+ pick. Kyler Murray was the number 1 overall draft pick in the start of the Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray era. In 4 years, Kyler has thrown 84 touchdowns and nearly 14,000 passing yards, while running for another 2,200 yards and an additional 23 rushing touchdowns. While I am admittedly not a huge Kyler Murray fan, there's a lot of things that have went against Kyler and a lot of things that aren't exactly his fault. And for as bad of a franchise as Arizona is, you can't really scold them for hitting a double on a quarterback. Was it a grand slam? No. but there's been very few moves the organization has made over the past few years that has been a grand slam. And when they got him a legitimate number 1 receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, which credit them for doing so, granted he only played 35 games for the team, but he had nearly 2,700 receiving yards and 17 touchdowns. This may be a bold take, but I give the Kyler Murray selection an A-, as there's been so many things done to stunt his growth as a player, no pun intended. But that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world and help the growth of the channel tremendously. Until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.